Welcome to Punchline Talks Politics. I'm Mark Hawthorne, the editor and owner of punchlinegloucester.com, and today my special guest is Mark Hawthorne, who's the leader of Gloucestershire County Council. Welcome, Mark, to Punchline Talks Politics.
Hi there, Mark. Good to be here.
Well, I just want to say that we've known each other quite some time, actually. I think it's around 20 years. And today you've got some rather special news.
I have indeed. That's absolutely right, Mark. Today I'm announcing that I'm standing down as leader of Gloucestershire County Council after 14 years in the post. I'll be standing down at the council meeting in September. And the reason I'm standing down is I've decided I won't be seeking re-election to the county council next May. And I think it's only right and fair that I give my successor a bit of time to get their feet under the table and to take charge in the run up to next year's local election. So yes, that's my big news.
Now, it's not because the Tory party, let's be honest, have had a complete and utter drumming. And, it's going to be a really tough sell over the next, to do it again, it's going to be a tough sell.
No, absolutely not. In fact, what was slightly annoying was I was planning to make my announcement, I think in mid-June, and then Rishi called the general election, so I had to put all my plans on hold. But, the thing with local politics, with politics in general, every 4 years, the electorate get to make a decision about whether you continue with the job. But as politicians, we get that choice as well. And I've been doing this now for, oh gosh, crikey, nearly 26 years in one way, shape or form. First stood in, I think, 97, first got elected in 98 when I was just 23 years of age. And this year I'm going to be 50. And look, Mark, if I don't make this decision now, when am I going to make it? So this feels right for me. It feels like I've done a good innings. I've done 14 years. It's time for someone else to have a go. I thoroughly enjoyed my time. And it's when you go, you need to, make that decision, make that call and move on.
Obviously, there's fundamental changes. You and I used to be on the board of the Urban Regeneration Company, and I knew you when you were leader of Gloucester City Council as well. Are those those differentials, those two leading the two difference? What would be the biggest thing? Would you say?
Budget. So, so I think the budget of the city council was 16 million, and I think the budget of the county council is 650 million. So that's quite a big gap there. But some of it is the same. So you and I will remember that when we were on Gloucester City Council, we had the Urban Regeneration Company. We were driving through the keys, as it was then, the application to get the keys up and running. It was all about raising the game for Gloucester, getting Gloucester to start, punching above its weight and seeing real generation in our city. And I think the story of the county council has been pretty much the same. It's about getting Gloucestershire to punch above its weight, delivering big schemes like the A417. It's on site as we speak now, £500 million worth of investment into our county, Junction 9, Junction 10, our core, which I was out just earlier this week, which has just come online. It's all about making sure that Gloucestershire meets and beats its aspirations as a county. And so in many respects, the two jobs have been very similar, but just on a slightly different scale.
It must be really galling, because there have been some remarkable progress over the years. I'm sure Richard Graham feels exactly the same. The A417, the Forum, all these different things. Gloucester Keys, I know you had a big part to play in that, as you rightly just said. But surely it must feel a bit tight that everyone got a real shoe-in from the election as well. The electorate just brushed that to one side and voted everybody out.
But that's politics. My first count was in 1997 when Tony Blair won his landslide. And I've had some fantastic results in between, but politics is all about the journey. And I've had a fantastic journey. I've had the opportunity to lead two great councils, to be involved in the community I love, and to do it for best part of 26 years. So, I think for me, putting the party politics to one side, being a councillor is one of the most rewarding experiences anyone can ever have. And I've been very lucky that I've been able to do that right at the top of the game in Gloucestershire.
I've got to ask you, what would you say was your biggest success from both sides, so the City Council leading that and leading Gloucestershire County Council? What would be the one thing that you'd like to go, yeah, I'm really proud of that?
I think for Gloucester, it's got to be the keys. I mean, it was, I think for anyone in the city at the time, it was transformational. It was that sort of, no one believed Gloucester could do that sort of thing. No one believed that sort of regeneration was possible. And we made it happen. Because there were lots of people right across the political spectrum that were determined that Gloucester was going to have its moment and going to see something really happen that was transformational and exciting. The A417, I think, for me, has very similar parallels. You know, right at the beginning of the process, people said to me, Mark, you're wasting your time. No one will ever agree on what the solutions should be. You're absolutely wasting your time. Don't even bother. But we did. We persevered. We launched that campaign, the A417 Loop, because we were determined to make sure that we could prove to government that we could stick behind a solution. And then once we won that campaign, people said, but yeah, we're never going to get it funded. That's never going to happen. No one's going to give you the money. But we persevered. We showed that we had the determination to get it delivered, and we got that funding agreement. And then people said, do you know what? You're never going to get it through planning, though. I mean, this is the A and B we're talking about. You're never going to get it planning. But again, thanks to some amazing officers, it has to be said, behind the scenes, working with all the environmental groups, we got through all those issues with National Highways, and we're there. I mean, you drive through it, past it on a regular basis. I pass it on a regular basis. We are there. It's happening. And that's the sort of thing that I think you can look back on and say, do you know what? I played my part in making that happen. And you do that with a little bit of pride and think, do you know what? That's a job done.
I remember standing on the A417 and interviewing you for a video that we did years and years ago, and it was really cold and windy and rainy. We looked a lot younger then as well, mate, and a lot slimmer, if you don't mind me saying as well. Okay, that's the pluses. Let's not go out the way. That's the pluses. What about, you know, sort of things you'd like to, if you had your time again, that didn't go according to plan, that you're a little bit disappointed with? Because there's always yin and yang, mate.
No, I think so, but I don't see it that way. I've never seen it that way. I think you always have challenges, and there are always moments that are very difficult or periods that are very challenging. But as a leader, your job is to get through them and overcome them. So some of the greatest challenges I face, I would also say, are some of our greatest successes. You know, I inherited Javelin Park, and you remember that dominated politics in Gloucestershire for best part of a decade. People would, every election was apparently a referendum on Javelin Park. Everyone, all were very much on pro or anti Javelin Park. There were council meetings that were on knife edge votes around Javelin Park. And we got
to say Javelin Park is, sorry, I just want to say that Javelin Park is the incinerator on the
I know, I like to call it energy from waste plant, and I do like to call it for a reason.
I bet you do.
I do, because, you know, this year that delivered £24 million worth of extra money that saved frontline services from being cut. People aren't complaining about that anymore. And again, it just goes to show, if something's the right thing to do, whatever the adversity that you face, whatever the challenges you face, and we face many challenges through that process, it is something that at the end of the day, if you believe in it, and you believe it's the right thing to do, and you're determined to get it done, it is worth pursuing and delivering, because now we are reaping the rewards of that investment 15 years ago.
Okay, you've been a chair lots of times. I've been chair of quite a few meetings and things of this as well over the couple of years. Go on then, give us your top 3 tips for being a chair. What would you say?
Being a chair of a meeting.
Yeah, being a chair, you know, actually running those, because it's not being funny. You're talking about £600 million worth. You've got to bring the council with you. You've got to bring everybody with you on the journey. What would you say the top 3 tips to enable you to do that? Because you've got to get all your councillors in a row, got to get all the officers all lined up.
Crikey, you put me on the spot. The first thing, timekeeping. You know, if you've got an agenda and you've got 2 hours, you've got to get through that agenda. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and you're wasting everyone else's time. I mean, secondly, I think as the chair, you need to make sure everyone's voice is heard, but someone at the end of the day has got to sum up that discussion and say, okay, we've had the debate, but this is what we're going to do. And then the third thing I think as chair is, and it's all the stuff that happens outside of the meeting, is once you've agreed something's going to happen, make sure it actually does. So the next time you meet, you move on, you make progress. So, you know, those are, I'd say, the 3 top tips for chairing meetings. Because I'm sure me and you have been in lots of meetings where the agenda's drifted, you haven't got through everything, people have to start leaving, no one's taken any notes, no one's made any actions, and you feel like you wasted your time. Precisely. So those are my top 3 tips to anyone chairing a meeting. You know, timeliness, make sure you keep on time, make sure that you sum up and get action, and then make sure those actions are followed through.
You see, sometimes you've got to not take yourself too seriously and get on with everybody as well. Make it to bring everybody to the meeting. You sometimes got to at least to be entertaining in some ways. I mean, not wear a red nose or anything or floppy shoes, but do you know what I mean? Okay,
Yeah.
Mark. What's next then? What's next for you? Because you have been a politician all this time. Most people don't realise that I actually met you when you worked at Lloyd's Bank all those years ago as well. And so, what are you going to do next? You know, be
Well,
done. And when do you stop? So you stop in
September.
September. So what's the big plan, mate?
So I think the big plan is I'm going to take a bit of time to work out what it is that I want to do next. I have been doing this for 14 years. I've been doing it on and off for 26 years. So it's a quarter of a century, a big chunk of my life. I think I've got lots of experience and skills that I've picked up along the way, whether it's leading a city council through regeneration, leading a county council through transformational change, being deputy chair of Western Gateway and helping set all that up. I think I've got lots of skills and experience about how local government works and how business and local government can connect. So I'll be looking for some opportunities in the coming months to help people to ensure that they can do their bit and explore how they can work better with local government or with local businesses. So that's sort of maybe where I will be dedicating some of my time, but I'm not going to rush into anything. You know, when you've done a quarter of a century in local government, I think sometimes it's just right to take a bit of a breath, bit of a time out and go, okay, where do I go next? Because I'm 50. You know, I've got plenty of years ahead of me, I hope. I don't know. Do
Well,
I? I'm asking you.
well, at the end of the day, you know, Mark, you've got to spend some time looking after Marky Mark.
Absolutely.
And, you know, there's only so much time that you can spend looking after the community and doing those things. There is a time where actually you have to go out and earn a decent crust. I'm sure you have made a decent crust, but I hope so. But councillors aren't as well paid as people think. Okay, I'm going to ask you last thing. So I always ask my guests who come on my show for their top 3 business tips. Normally, I give them a preview and say, "Hey, mate, give us your top 3 business tips beforehand." But I'm going to throw you into the deep end because you are a politician. I'm sure you can talk your way out of it anyway. So, go on, Mark. What's your top 3 business tips?
Okay, but I mean, these are top 3 tips, I guess. And you give me no warning on this whatsoever. So this is really off the top of the head. But I think for me, the number one thing has always been clarity of vision. When you're driving an organization forward, whether it's a small business, a district council or a county council, you have to have absolute clarity of vision, because the people that work to you, the people that you're trying to direct, want to get that direction from you. And therefore, if you're not able to articulate it, what are they? They're not going to be able to follow it. So I think that is top one. The second thing I always say as leader, in any organization, you need to work and respect your staff. You know, these are the people that you rely on to get your vision delivered, and you've got to be able to work with them. You've got to have the respect for them. You've got to give them the support that they need to get on with the job. And that means, you know, when it's tough and when you've had a bad day and when something's gone really, really wrong, there's no point sitting there, you know, pointing fingers and laying out the blame. You need those people around the table to go, okay, let's pick ourselves up. Let's fix this. Let's get it working. And a number of times, Mark, I could tell you anecdotes of moments of crisis where that approach has been a difference from abject failure to, you know, rising from the ashes, the phoenix of success. And I really genuinely do believe that. And the third thing I would say is, do I have a third thing? I do have a third thing. The first thing I think is just a real passion for what you do. If you have a real passion for what you do, that will rub off onto others, because it is, as you know, Mark, it is the great business leaders, the great council leaders are those who have genuine passion for their community, for their business, for the product, for whatever it is they're doing. And that multiplies in many different ways throughout an organization. So those, with no prep at all, are my top 3 business tips.
Mark, unfortunately, that's all we've got time. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you. You know, thank you for your service to the community over the years. It is difficult being a councillor. You know, you get a lot of abuse and stuff like that. People don't realise the long hours that you've done, the antisocial stuff, the sacrifices for your family, and all the rest of it. But I personally would just like to take this opportunity to thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks ever so much. All the very best for the future. I'm sure we'll be rocking up together very soon.
All
Bye,
right.
Mark.
Cheers. Bye bye.